This house is on fire. To know it, I only have to touch my temples. Find the itching wood, spit it out, watch it. Dry twigs and bones, nothing permanent. The hierarchy of suffering is built vertically and horizontally. Shall we decide who is more deserving? Leave your rhyme outside. In the closed space of your room, to get your cry to echo properly, you will need free verse. Open the door. The fire grows exponentially. And maybe you will have to sleep regardless. The earth has also had bad days. Imagine this. In the relief of her body, there are points of elevation and points of depression. Imagine this. She cries herself a river from a stream of thoughts, wrapped in her Mariana Trench, but has to wake up early for work. The earth has also had heartbreaks. And when she did, her chest was a continent, whole and smooth, but then her ribs crumbled and spread apart like tectonic plates, so she fell to pieces without realizing that they were still hers, and she was yet to turn them into mainlands and isles. The earth has also been angry when she forgot about holes in her pockets because ozone layer was always getting too thin, when she failed to check upon her 7 billion kids who don't answer her calls and rave most of the time, when those kids keep counting how much is left till she dies and already plotting a plan to sell her like a flat and move to a fucking Mars. Or leave her to rot in this gruesome black place we all call space, but she knows will be a grave. The earth has also felt lonely. Imagine believing in God, but not believing in earth. Imagine knowing that people will fall back in her cradle after death, and not God, but being too wise to tell. Imagine being the only one of 8 friends to have children and to be neglected by them. Imagine being aware that mankind is a snake she warmed in her bosom, but forgiving it. For the snake has got children too. Imagine seeming so happy from up close, but so blue from afar out in cosmos. Imagine if the earth has had bad days, you might have one of them too. I am leaving the sculpture and jumping off roofs if it helps to break everything caught in stone. No gods need to be worshipped but talked to, whispered to, shared with. No people, no gods are watered down to their marble copies. I am not a material for the memory. I am no fantasy to indulge in. I am no good story to tell. I am a woman, not a maiden. I am flesh, soul, blood, brain, mind, pain, sweat, saliva, fear, teeth, pain, hair, trust, period blood, battle cry, gentle touch, pain, whip, illness, cure, anger, love, in charge, movement and action, lots of pain you still don't notice nor ask about. I am a woman, not a maiden. I deserve to be listened to, not crafted and put on the shelf with a sigh. I am no statue, no sculpture, no muse, no image dreamt up in fever. I am the body, the mind, the soul, the pain, giver and taker. If I have nothing to give, it must be I had nothing to take, 'cause you have been confiding too long in the stone. Wouldn't it be so easy to put the earth straight to your chest? Bury yourself in it up to neck and never hear a single word from anyone. Unlearn the language and all unnecessary meaning, except for that which is tangible, good soil and salt and the great crystals. Wouldn't it be so easy to never open up to anything, ever, and not reveal a screaming hole beneath? You look around and everything seems not whole. The ground is full of scars and pores, just like fresh baked bread and sunlit skin. The wholeness of it all. What a mesmerizing breakage, the holiness of all.
A graveyard on a sunny day. What path shall lead you here? Go on, decide if you will stay or if you'll conquer fear. That don't seem right, but still it might, who knows, besides the sun. Perhaps the future could be bright, perhaps she was the one. But who can judge, and who can tell if you were right or wrong? The tolling of the iron bells, the only certain song. You have to go, you have to live, no time to hesitate. Life only has so much to give, you better not be late. The clock is ticking, best be fast, or else the sand will spill. Your time is coming now at last. So why are you still here? My dearest child, my blood and flesh, why are you standing still? To make that piercing leap of faith, is that your greatest fear? Is that too much of me to ask? For you to take the step, was that so jarring of a task that you've become inept? Or have you simply lost your voice in fear of the unknown? The worst of choices is the choice to make no choice at all. The train is leaving. Time to go, and you're still holding on. You were to ride the tidal flow, but fear has grown too strong. A graveyard on a sunny day, the tombstone simply read. He stood in place, he had no say, and so he died like that. Ah, there you are, you fleeting glimpse of light, my ray of sun amidst eternal shadow, a blooming field, a sunny summer meadow, a flower born of bloody lifelong fight. Ah, there you are, you pretty soul of scars, a bed of moss, a seeker of salvation, a tender name I scarcely dare to mention, the one who holds her love behind the bars. Oh, stay with me, you bright and broken one, for while I dare not give you any promise, I'd go all out so you would find your solace within my arms when all is said and done. Oh, stay a while, you holder of the key. Unlock my heart and let yourself inside it. I was a fool, delirious and blinded in your embrace when you were here with me. A flash of light, and now the moment's gone. You whisper, love, we don't belong together. The memories of us will leave me never, for I'll remember you each time I see the sun.
Pope John Paul II said in those old carefree times in Lviv, rain falls, children grow. Dear Saint John Paul, I grew up under this rain. But now, in such a winter, nothing is free. Snow and soldiers must fall. Soldiers fall, children grow. Soldiers fall, children grow.
In honor of water connection, I am leaving you, but all roads of this map are still with me, even though I'm really bad at remembering names and streets. Your beautiful fingers lead to the coming out of the banks. This river is already filled, so it's certainly ready to become the sea. Bringing sandy shells with me to my each trip, it's the purest way of healing, as far as I'm able to hear you whispering through them. This tree has no doubts to which root it's connected, doesn't it? Every time when I'm asking the fate if this path worth it, this woman with dark hair laughs loudly and lets our souls to be touched. You shine so intensely that I can charge my heart with your light in order to let your one to go forward, my inner child thinks, but instead she simply says, goodbye. We know it's not the last time, don't we? No longer have the strength to flip through the news and hear about the explosions. I feel how slowly I'm breaking, and in general it's the truth. We will bring this war to our and your homes as broken glass under our skin because of the blast in someone's house, as a note in everyone has it nowadays, war diary. Today it's 52nd day, an explosion near my home. I'm too terrified to go around. As a child's scream which you hear skipping you too pet about the war in Ukraine. As a smell of such a familiar and warm soup mom cooked for someone who's gone, and this mom is sitting now near fragments and sobbing so much. As a message from a close friend last evening. Hey us, there are 3 blasts around our house. Don't wanna go everywhere, but absolutely sure I'll stay in Kiev. I'm happy I wasn't alone at this moment, but I'm extremely exhausted. As my Christmas on my mother living in Lviv next to me, while our native home is collapsing and nobody knows when and how it's over, when and how will it end in general. I'm trying to write in order to get myself opportunity to scream to everyone who could hear. My native country, my native towns where I used to walk and which I visited are destroyed and still being destroyed. I feel so much pain, I can't even explain it to you although I tried. I can't explain the limits of my pain, it has no boundaries, but if I could, I describe to you where I would put it. Ковтаю туман. On the background of myself, something or someone is sitting in such a depth, and we both have no any strength to discuss it in any way, never using all words that can be started from these letters. Each night of the city I'm happy to see smiles at me through my window. I've already used all my candles, so I'm trying to burn my palm. It hurts only a little. I've learned that pain is rewarding. I had never seen such amount of truth in one silly simple word. When it comes to awakening, the hardest moment is only to start. If you speak of this road, it's almost denied when alone. As it was in this summer, the fate has blocked this path for you. Sweetie, what have you tried to say? To be completely honest, I ignored all your warnings, so here I am with no memory of our contact and only the trees keep me away from a total disappearing. Here I am, splitting in 2 endless paths to the forest. One is for private using, I'm going to survive this winter. The second one, for those who feel really ready for getting closer. All I can only suggest to all my sisters and brothers of this planet. Everything that was prickly this year has showed me my power is my tiny, never giving up, brave heart that keeps blooming even though bleeding. This pure wisdom has taught me we are able to get through anything until we are committed to our inner voice. We all are supposed to be just the kids of the sun, but before we were all the grandchildren of the moon. If not now, then when will you finally ask yourself? Whose turn now to keep exploring when the greatest teachers passed away? Luckily, careful chilly wind has kept their voices. They are everywhere, since you've listened up to them. After my confession of love, finally my voice is also taken away by the branches of my forest, because fog is the bridge for those who want to be heard.
I don't remember. When my grandchildren ask me, "Granddad, have you ever heard the whistling noise before a missile strike?" I will say, "I don't remember." "Granddad, how could it be? Tell us more." "Maybe you have heard the sounds of the deadly Iranian kamikaze drones." I will say that I don't remember. "Ah, okay. Maybe you have heard how the air defense system worked." I will tell them I don't remember. "Maybe you have heard any explosions in the center of Kyiv." I will say the same, that I don't remember. Together we will sit by the campfire and just in the silence. And after a long pause, I will say I don't remember anything anymore except for the terribly beautiful autumn and relatives who became even more than relatives, and more romantic candlelight evenings without any electricity, and the bloody signages of the autumn ivy in calligraphy handwriting on the grey fences near crushed post-Soviet industrial districts. There is too much sadness in my funny neighborhood. We stare tiredly at the slippery reflections on the windows of the cafe. The inner light of Christmas barely glows through the exhausted wires of the garlands. Soon they will be turned off. The Merry Christmas will be over, and only the burnt-out isles candles will stick out under the roofs. Maybe blackout was created not to remember nothing at all, to walk blindly along familiar scratched-out roads. Once again, I am copying the file of someone who once smiled from my photo. No, you can't compare these times, not in any way. You lived completely different life before the war, and there will be no more of us like that. I'm quite over the ice floes. We have to move on through the muddy streams because there is no other way in this fight. The winter sun resembles a bruise on the city's body. The rhythmic gymnastics of emergency tapes trembling near the bombing craters. The windows of dreams are boarded up with plywood and boards, and broken photo of girl on a pile of construction waste. She lived in that slightly damaged house. The house was repaired by volunteers a few days later, as she was gone, and the butterflies she loved so much in the summer are now hiding from the winter between the bricks. Instead of wings, they have ashes. Instead of their bodies, bullet holes are made of lead. Slow running. We were born too slow. Explore everything around our own shadows. Observe how slowly the water in the taps drips. We were happy to see exotic temples of isols. Went out to pray for the holy snow in the case of global warming. Watched the moons of old bicycle wheels spin, and how the tree crones disappear in the fog, and then see only the wooden birds. We were not taught that many other online streams would break into the most sincere dreams. We didn't warn that predators shopping malls will eat the business lunches historical buildings in Kyiv, and the fact that discounts will disappear as fast as rainbows, that our pulses will reflect per second billing, and that we need to sort garbage of the approaches to the gates of hell and heaven. We were not taught to roll waves of explosion the path of the coast, did not teach how to fit into the life's twists and turns. Don't buzz, don't make any noise, resonate with the world. We were not taught how to believe, to behave in the minefields. We studied how Kalashnikov assault rifles looks like during spring rings. A few training shots at the target of the horrible future, and that's it. We were not taught to freeze at rallies. What to do with wasted time on social networks? We were taught to take notes, to hold our breath from the beauty, to cram classical poetry. We were taught how to observe the constellations, but the lights of enemy UFs has seemed for us every night. We were not taught to greet so many tragedies at the same time by our hearts. The third summer of love. How would you describe the generation born in Ukraine between 1981 and 1996? Generation Y, millennials, a people shaped by suffering, steadfast, vulnerable, better than the previous one, those who think differently. This is how we look, marked by the passage of time, growing up fast, thinking fast, messing around, crawling together through the branches late at night, and eventually building our own nests. I observed my European peers mostly on music forums, where we discussed rare Eurodance tracks, acid house, and all trends from the 90s, sharing life stories tied to those melodies. One of my chat companions warmly reminded about the second summer of love, while I knew nothing of the first one. Now, not much communication remains with my European peers. Only distant reminders in calm Instagram stories against the backdrop of hotels in exotic places, near blue lagoons, alpine meadows, or in the embrace of Sunday morning yoga class. Of course, there are some career updates on LinkedIn too. They were simply luckier with normal neighbors. Sure, some of them have their struggles, divorces, mental health battles, unruly children, antidepressants, a familiar carousel with hidden pitfalls and unknown depths, just as it might have been for us without the war. But everything must remain perfect inside their bubble. They notice more and more sad news about Ukraine, scrolling past our frustrated, automatically translated posts on the Facebook or Instagram. They see more and more profile pictures of Ukrainian boys and girls in military uniforms. They see our daily prayers for the nations. What do they really think of us? Do they feel empathy when they react with a sad emoji under the post showing a missile-struck apartment block in Kyiv? Or had their focus shifted elsewhere? Do they plan to volunteer in Ukrainians' emptiness during the summer vacations? Or do they simply think that the world is just some damn Ferris wheel of fate? Sometimes all illusions crumble into dust, and even friendships shatter into the shards. All Ukrainian boomers, Generation X, millennials, and Zoomers are integrated in an endless bloody garland of pain. From time to time I remember my peers, the ones from my generation, swallowed by the bloody mist of the war. We knew each other. One day they will return. They will come back from their cold shores in heaven. They will look like neon fireflies. They will shine. Oh, they will shine on the night-swept summer meadows during their special party night at the beginning of the third summer of love.
Sometimes one wants to have a life with no desires. It is comfortable to live in apathy. You do not have to burn, do not have to fight, do not have to strive or go. One can lie like a stone quietly, and so on. Sometimes one wants never to be born, not to live in the world, not to be in society, not to be surrounded. Sometimes one wants to simply not exist, not to think, not to try, not to live, and even not to sleep. Sometimes one wants to go out into the sea, to say goodbye to one's relatives, forget all strangers, leave them all their grief. Sometimes one wants to lose the memory of oneself, just remain as empty, blank leaf. Sometimes one wants to leave oneself and go, to have no desires, no aspirations, no goals. Sometimes one wants never to know oneself, never to know strangers, not to know loved one, to bypass everyone. Sometimes one wants to be useless to everyone, to have no talent, no skills, to be worthless, incapable. Sometimes one wants to know why one was born, so that when one chooses a death, it's not a mistake alone. Sunflowers, illegitimate children of the sun, your heads are raised in search of the Father and His love. Your eyes are scared and are covered with black shells of scars in which tear grains are hidden. Your children are born from these tears and grow, waiting to meet Him, the Forefather, who created you and endowed you with His love for the Foremother. Sunflowers, illegitimate children of the sun. Your faces are flowers, and eyelashes are fragrant, like the love of the Foremother whore who gave birth to you and all living within her. Sunflowers, martyrs of life and its slaves. You live by consuming the love of the Foremother, and you give your love to the Father, who comes every day to see whether you are waiting for Him or not. If not, then death awaits you. He will not come. And your heads will become heavy and will bow under the pressure of tear scars, which you have no strength to hold back. And your eyes will be picked out by birds, and you will die, and you will return to the womb of Mother Earth, who gave birth to you in love and torment, and who raised you and hundreds of thousands of her other children, who draw juices from her, to grow and to return to her womb after the death. Such is the law of being, O sunflowers, O children of the sun and the earth, O martyrs of life and its slaves. Wait for the Father and the birds, who will certainly come when the time comes, and He will say that He has ceased to love. I waste my time on you. You're dead. You're frozen. Snow falls in your mind. You are swaying on the blade between evil and good. I know you are very kind, but I can't stand your always bad mood. I like the light in your soul, but you live in the dark side of moon. I know you will fall in love and it will change you soon. But I can't look in your eyes full of ice. I can't hear your cold voice. I know it was your choice to live in the city of dark, to eat with the phantoms, to listen to the song of Sirena. but I feel the suffering of your soul, and my soul is suffering too. I dream about black hole, which would take all darkness from you. The inner emptiness does not disappear without a trace. A pit in the soul, like an abyss with an open fire, in your daily actions, in touches, reproaches, doubts, and in resting. Actions bring grain or chaff. Inaction is dampness and fungus. Whoever you are, only actions form the basis, even if every day is a jump into the abyss. You are looking into an abyss. The abyss is looking inside you. It is boundless within the limits of your being. For the abyss you are both, the universe and the eternal need. It doesn't exist without you. Only you by yourself are the creator of this terrible feeling. Look into it. Look into your desolation. What are you afraid of? There is no end there. And this fire and this cloth of doubts, they are all yours. Recognize your child and love it. Finally, accept yourself. Even if you are not ideal or flawed, but you are alive, and the emptiness of your soul creates your universe and hides your potential. It seems to me that myself lives underwater. The self was lost on kilometers' depths. It feels cozy there. The self remains in peace. It is not afraid of aging or solitude. I do not know when I lost it. I am not sure that the self has a purpose. Did consciousness or indifference create it? Separate from me, far from my path. The self hides and wants to be at peace, to live in the mountains, or to disappear in fast water. It wants to hide deep, deep in the sea, and to hide the scars on one's body.
Tell me, O God Almighty, what is life? I don't get it anymore. I don't wish it anymore. Waiting for the bell to count to 10. Waiting for the bell to count to 10. My throat has dried out completely. The consequence of not sharing my voice with anything in the vicinity. This city, this cursed and wicked city, this city of lakes and lack of self-awareness, this city feels like a happy cemetery. People try to cheer everybody up, knowing their fate. To carry this country, this cursed and wicked country, this country of dead soldiers and writers, even if it means carrying it abroad, and to never return. 'Cause who will, if nobody's home? Love doesn't exist. Self-care doesn't exist. Relax doesn't exist. Empathy doesn't exist if you know you will die sooner or later. 'Cause war doesn't ask your permission. It will simply take your soul, leave your body in an uncontrolled lack of motion, while telling me to die from the inside, forget all the love, and then the outer forces will do their part. 'Cause that's how the war works. And oh boy, you're dumb if you say you can stand a chance against it. Nobody asked you, and thus nobody would listen. I wish I could plant an orchid atop my heart to carry me through the winter, but alas, the seeds won't grow, and I will carry one of them inside my blood in the form of a bullet. Sometimes I want to forget my native tongue. I don't know how to respond violently to a Ukrainian without sounding mild and polite at the same time. I don't know how to kill people with words that matter in this chaotic age without shifting to loaned ones. I still find salvation in the language of brute force and misunderstanding by my parents. I want to hide behind metaphors and look for cover from lullabies that demolish my heart. I want to speak to people whom I will never meet in real life. But do I even need to meet them? I sometimes find peace in listening to the violence that transcends boundaries on many levels and then is cured by melodies of rebirth. I wish I could speak just that language so I don't snap back to reality. Because it's chasing me. It wants me to admit that I still need to use my language, which sounds brutal only by text. It wants me to say that my country is fucked. It's all over. No return. And it doesn't matter that people say, we must not to forget, not to die, not to regret, not to fight, not to avenge, not to remain silent. But even then, I still sit in silence, covered by my insecurities and hopelessnesses. Like, man, it's a life. You are born, you are studying, you train in a military, you die. That's the only way. Seldom, the person will live to tell the tale. Usually, the person will be quiet in a room full of quiet people who won't look into each other's eyes. The language dies slowly with the loss of belief in words being the main weapon. And sometimes I want to forget my native tongue. But do I need to? And I don't even know which language should I speak now. Seems like no language is protected from being polluted and strangled to death by authoritarianism and dictatorial wishes. So how safe should we feel if the butchers and diggers push business above moral standards, already stale and decapitated for long enough? Sometimes the alternative reality is the worst person's sweetest dream. The star has been blown, never to recover. The new Messiah was tortured to death for being born in a family that, allegedly speaking, was considered the enemy of the state. In reality, it was the fear of the paranoid dictator that his power can and would be shared. Wise men once told me that we can't expect the light right now, but we can certainly find it in others, still embodying strength after many years of false expectations. Yet still, I am searching for the answers. How long will they burn for? And is there a possibility that they will burn out?
At the height of long-term dreams, on the steps of already blocked channels, 5 minutes to the spring sounds and colored lanterns, I will carry a sheet with the inscription, Hope. Outside, the rain is playing in A minor, and the wind sways the broken and wet winds. 5 minutes to spring sounds and colored lanterns. I will carry a piece of paper with the inscription, Human. Talk to me. When it's terribly cold and lonely, hot sore and incredibly tight, talk to me. When this black and white world turns to your backs and takes away everything you believe in, talk to me. When words become a transparent ghost of a constellation and your angel keeps silence in the secret streets of the night, talk to me. When you want to run away so much and not come back, to cause a knot of oblivion and maintenance, talk to me. Talk to me and don't disappear anymore. This rain is not eternal. The sun is outside the window. Explosion. Half-broken faces bury the hearts of pierced generations in the ground, who have long forgotten what the sun looks like. So now the earth. Nail. Behind the nail is a tree, and then there is silence. The pavement is covered with blood. No one was taught to squeeze their throats out of shame. No one was taught to cover their years out of fear. No one has taught me to ask, "How are you?" so often. The machine closes the door and abroad, those who heat water and wait. Spring has come. Does it mean something? Yes, we are in homes, learning to be strong in the arms, eyes, and words. You do not need to shoot the body. It is enough to destroy naked children's downs. The soul of a slave is not about my country. The wall is ruined, but in the kitchen, waiting for my mother with green tea. The day has not changed. Only I have never been down, it's like a fever. Only I have never stood on the platform in fear of not seeing loved ones. Only I have never said thank you for being alive, not dead.
Home. I've planted a home for myself in a red flower pot, a place from which I never want to run, a word that melts in my mouth when I say it, a starting point that is marked on every map. A home embraced by trees, branches covering the door. Fantastic beasts wander, pressing against our knees. How did we manage to imagine something so valuable and everlasting in this fragile reality? A clamorous galaxy, a castle bandaged by mist, a dimension with an ongoing quest for the right words. How would we recognize each other under the gloomy sky, each of us pretending to be somebody else? Look how our hands and hearts are bruised. Understandable when you must dig yourself out every day. On this earth, a territory of despair, it is hard to stop running, even when no one is chasing you. Here we turn on the light above the dinner table. Like a curious neighbor, the mistletoe peeks into our dreams. A train rumbling afar. A TV tower, like a white fang. This is your stop. Exhale, and then inhale again. Stones and nails. Magnolia is blooming in someone else's garden. I feel like dying, but I must speak up. With a mouth full of stones and nails, a mouth full of blood, saying the words for those whose souls were removed from their bodies. How do you know what they wanted to say? Speak, poet. Speak, though you have no right. The moment it becomes unbearable, just spit out blood through stones and nails and continue to speak. The heart, a squashed apple, falls apart. Flowers proudly open to the spring sun. Shameless nature. The shame of survivors. Sharp stones of words in the dried out mouth. Such problematic, such frightful poems, full of anger, so politically incorrect. No beauty in these poems, no aesthetic at all. The metaphors withered and fell to pieces before they could bloom. The metaphors are buried in children's playgrounds under hastily raised crosses, frozen in unnatural poses by the gates of houses covered in dust. They prepared meals over an open fire. They did try to survive. It was of dehydration that they perished under the rubble. Shot in a car under a white flag made from a sheet. With colorful backpacks over their shoulder, they lie on the asphalt, face down, next to the cats and dogs. I'm sorry to say so, but such verses are all we have for you today. Dear ladies and gentlemen, spectators of the theater of war. The vow. Do you take this man with his extreme sense of justice, with his broken sleep, his dual nature, one of his faces an oasis and the other a sandstorm, with wrinkles scattered around his eyes when he smiles, with his head full of complex numbers, causal connections, details of precise accuracy? Do you take this man to be quiet with him more often than talk, this silence being more valuable than any conversation? Do you take this man to burst into all-night diners, to peel an apple and touch a delicate vinyl record with two hands and two hands, to wrap your legs around him as if around a tree trunk, to part as butter beneath a knife, to revolve around your axis, lighting his way? Do you promise to insert and take out needles, to rip off and put on bandages, to smooth over conflicts, to not pour too much milk into his coffee, to withstand unbearably long pauses when he turns his back, to kiss as greedily as if choking on water on a hot day? Do you take this woman with her maladjusted mechanics, concealed scars, with her collection of hearts in the pockets of her dress, with her pile of errands that never gets smaller, with her dyslexia, holes in her memory, her bitten lip, with her big purse that holds random items and a lot of freedom? Do you take this woman without reading her poems, without reprimanding her, to get angry with her but chase her fears away, to revel in the faults that her perfection is made of, to preserve your day's plan when you're together? Do you promise to tiptoe around when she's bringing her ideas to life, to come as a peacemaker to her hot spots, to stray from the right path with her, to enter into arguments and philosophical disputes while never stopping to grow into each other? In a rented Soviet-era apartment and on a crowded local train, and in the attic of your parents' house, and in your own home with large windows and white walls, and in a hospital ward filled with desperation and hope, and in a hotel room where the sea replaces the floor, until nothing do you part.
Any language is applicable for performing calculations within folklore, including spirits of nature. Barbarism, shop or ship, tree, cuts its shadow down. Any matter is an output, originated with multiple yeses and nos. So, if yes, then yes until it has adjusted. Super user, let lilacs bloom. If no, then up sledge, up wheel. The room as a roar of the construction, barely perceptible coincidence of sounds and winds, whilst the numbers enter the followers. Flag, yes and yes for blue and yellow. Vote for the duo. Voice plus confidence pack. RAM isn't actually a random access memory, but a chant to heal our confidence. Whose thick skin do we pierce with explicit content? It is clear who has the hardened epithelium. Poems inappropriate during peace and in wartime may suddenly become appropriate. Every single one is needed, even the ones stamped unsuitable for conscription. The sour of fear will not harvest for 40 years, not a crumb of crypto of bread, not a single damn thing. Gas, coal, wheat, rye, download the Tor, a ballad about fishing, about game in the sense of hunting, about a kiss with the target. Exchange of encryption keys between an opinion essay and a template of storks. The wind turns on. Clouds from the heads of the innocent blown into the heads of the guilty. The titan drops like blood sugar. Snails have crawled over the windows after scotch tape. Heptapods paw. Give us fuel. Coffee grounds, social cuts of the trees, grafts, exhale potion, carnivorous harvest, twigs to the sides, optical fiber of ice. Everything is a watch dial, everything in its own time. Decoration of reproaches, a drip-down remodel. The blurry window does not react, therefore the button of might. Dream cleanses reality. Unicyclist like a pizza cutter. The toaster spits out Polaroids for the morning coffee. Didn't find out because of algorithms. Work, balcony, work, war, sleep, war. The left eye meanders the expanse of the covered balcony, where the flies circle. With the right eye, one can better see the expanse of the sky, as high as the birds fly. Really, birds. In the left eye, the flies, in the right eye, the birds. In different hemispheres, of different sizes, appearances, speeds, rhythms. And if one gets up from the chair, Cars are circling. The town square's joint, bone of the street, bone of the avenue, ankle, a mouth that spits, a union of pronouns, my own self. The sun, like the news, seeps under the collar, but it could have been something else.
Do you think about rain when you come out of the force of your body? Like the darkness comes out from under the fingernail of the full moon. Do you notice yourself wrapped in the warm rags of winter, amidst the landscape that doesn't belong to you? Do you want to appropriate with air as bitter as your walnut youth, and as light as a lonely swing of the wind? Do you see the back of the fog between the mountains, as perfect as a curve never yet touched by an artist's gaze? Can you tell about it without opening your mouth, but feeling in every slit in time with screaming? Do you make any peepholes in the screaming, when building your scream house with huge oral cavity? Do you feel a twinkle of love when you look at the mirror, shaking all the possessive pronouns of the flower of your skin? Do you turn on the peace radio while counting steps of hope? Do you feel alive in the punctuation of life? Translated by Evgenia Kanishcheva. Once you've left your home, you can never stop on the road. Never say again, put down your baggage, we have arrived, because footsteps are the only cradle you carry on your back, without the right to fall, to pause, to circle back, to sing with the trembling wrists, echoing the tremors of dead trees. Once you've left your home, never hide between fingers from the bricks from which you build up the throat of sorrow, pressing it, seal onto the paint and wax of time, which crumbles like a nut with a black heart, embedding itself onto the skin like the sun scratched on. Once you've left your home, words cannot be found for the love of a place where you relapse into the silent corridor of childhood, where things eye you before a game that sings through the eyes of bliss that darkened it long ago, like grandmother's ring on your finger, and grew as heavy as a family album in the memory cemetery. Once you've left your home, you can gaze into the window anymore, behind which the roses of a life in full bloom await you, because your garden has drifted away with you. And water. Can you hear water is enveloping your body, filled with the frost of a sea that, like freedom, is impossible to cross? Translated by Philip Nikolaev. Speech drains away like water between the hands. The drought of time sketches a warlike landscape. We stand and walk simultaneously, either under water or above water, swearing the sky seesaw on our shoulders. Flags of hands flutter in the twilight of anger, like a feather grass of birds fallen out of nests. The star of childhood, an unstoppable skiff, prepares a bloody bed on the broken stalks of evil. The path to love, a needle's alarmed song, with a tireless meal of death in place of lyrics, where with each step the sunken chime of the prayer bell smashes its brow against the slow ruin of guilt, where with each step memory's blast craters bloom like reeds, trumpets of hate sieve the soil through the merciless sieve of fire. Houses used to stand here instead of the night. The wind licks away the tears of orphaned trees, like a dog tied by a rope to the river. Translated by Philip Nikolaev. Swallows of the border slice the postcard of the Ukrainian sky into two halves, like two wedding rings for lovers, the road and the return, like two candles at a funeral, occupation and freedom expanse, like two bruised eyes, peace and war. Only memory hangs on steadfast, like a chair petrified from weariness, as if longing to fly for the first time. Translated by Philip Nikolaev.
Dead man's tongue. 1. My tongue was confiscated on the Ukrainian-Polish border on February 28, 2022, by a good-looking officer with a neat manicure. The procedure was painless, like anticipation of death or losing a couple of pounds before summer. I was provided with the document stating that I, Daryna Gladun, place my tongue crossing Vyshnya, right tributary of the San River, as a safety deposit amount for crossing the border during the time of war. And the officer said not to worry. The officer said it would be returned, refunded, or replaced with an equivalent ton on my way back. Moreover, the officer said, moreover, Western Europe has a massive depository of Ukrainian tongues from before the new law was in action. So, the officer said, rest assured you could claim one of those. Of course, once your documents are in order. Then, a stamp, a car, another car, someone's home, a train, a bus station, waiting room filled with bunk beds, used clothes, and toiletries, another bus, and another train, until the silence of war wrapped in my body, and a large polyester coat arrived in Germany. 2. I got a spare ton from the Dachau archive, 20 minutes away from Munich. It used to belong to my relative, so distant I couldn't recollect if I ever knew of us being related. That is beyond the point, said Grandma over the phone. As long as it's not made of feathers or thorns. Meanwhile, the archive worker took pride in the torn condition, exclaiming how lucky I was that this particular specimen was being preserved in ethanol and not in formaldehyde. The archive worker, following 7 different forms I submitted, was humming an off-tune ode to joy, substituting the words with This lasted until the last form. Then at once, stamp hits the form, and she stops humming and singing. The tongue was exquisite indeed. You wouldn't have guessed it belonged to the farmer who died of starvation and overall exhaustion. So well preserved it was. Even I wouldn't know if it wasn't written in his file. For another maybe 2 days, up until the dead farmer's tongue adjusted in my throat and started begging for food. Incessantly, even in my sleep, filling my stomach with raw eggs and honey and monstrous amounts of bread on my days, filling my days with misery. In 2 months, the tongue was not begging for food anymore. It was begging to return to Dachau, to a hermetic glass jar with 70% ethanol solution. It was filling my days with misery and my nights with more, even more misery. The dead farmer's tongue was confiscated in Berlin-Brandenburg airport. I was told something, the protection of German heritage law, article number something, clause number something, for a date well in the past. The officer proceeded. Don't you worry. Plenty of Ukrainian tongues were washed ashore on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean from before the law was in action, said the officer with a neat manicure and shirt so crisp his neck was mildly bleeding. Oh, he noticed my looks. Don't you worry about this. This is temporary inconvenience. 3. My third tongue was given to me at the Ellis Island waterfront terminal reuniting ceremony, with the string quartet playing farewell to Slavyanka, and everything of the kind. That tongue belonged to my great-great-grandfather, who drowned in the Atlantic Ocean. The fisherman of the New England found him with a blue lobster inside, made it to page 4 of the local news. He had allegedly stamped all over his file except for the newspaper clip. Allegedly, factory worker. Allegedly, second contract to Gary Works, Indiana. Allegedly, wife and 4 kids, birthplace. Capital M. Dot. The name crossed, rewritten and crossed and rewritten and crossed and rewritten. Obedient, oblate, oblivious, observant, obtrusive, obvious, octagonal, and so on, right to overhanging and overjoyed. Death, allegedly, 1908 to 1912. Of him I knew from my grandma that his wife, my great-great-grandma, would tell everyone that her husband died the moment he left home. Of him I knew from my grandma that when he returned the first time, his wife treated him like a walking dead. Of him I knew enough to identify letters crumbled behind the protruding A of his name that begins with O in Ukrainian. According to the newspaper clip, his body was enveloped in a thick patina of corroding metal that led to a delay in the tone extraction due to a particular misunderstanding, or, as it says in the article, a Revolutionary War grasshopper cannon turned out to be a dead immigrant worker. Tongue of a grasshopper cannon pretending to be a dead immigrant worker is in my mouth. Tongue of a grasshopper cannon corroded in salt water. Tongue of a grasshopper cannon attached to my throat is trying to break through my teeth. breaks my teeth, hurts my gums, till they start bleeding. Mariupol Eulogy. The world filled with foam from fire extinguishers that have no clue what love is, and frankly, never touched the skin of Anton or locks of his Donbass mind call hair before. But there was a day, and there was war, and the news on the international television. ABC reports, BBC reports, CBS reports, 3 letters of the Latin alphabet glued to the microphone held by a person well dressed, glued on top of a disheveled landscape like a paper doll, untouched by fire and the foam of fire extinguishers, broadcasting pain of unlighted church candles and muted songbirds, and the lighthouse where the light is no more, and the skeletons of ships arguing their age with the depths of the coastal waters, and where people would be, flesh, where memory would be, flesh, where the reporter hears the air raid sirens, time breaks into commercial. On the blackboard of Mariupol school number 4 is written, February 24th, class work, in shaky handwriting. The bell rings, breaking morning into pieces. The massive hole in the wall with a giant brick mouth apologizes for being late to the emptied room. Students were learning to divide by 10 when the classroom ceased to exist. Anton, as I remember him. In the backpack of my memory, Mariupol. On the lips of a new boy in our class, talking softer than anyone in our neighborhood, taking the word Mariupol out of his pocket, sharing it with the class, pinning it to the jacket of his new charcoal blue uniform. His lips carved in the tarmac of the streets of the city. Walking the Azov seafront, I was holding his last name hostage. The sun was covering my hair with the salt of Azov Sea, until I became wrinkled and shaking with all that I am, covered with the salt of Azov Sea, until sun swallowed me. Representative body of Anton, as I remember it, is naked, skin checkerboard, arms and legs, the arms and legs of a seagull. Fingers learned how to play the piano by the age of 4, the guitar by the age of 7, the violin by the age of 13, the violin in a proper way by 20, chess. He didn't understand how he could be spending time meant for music on playing chess. Eyes, there were 2, hair poking my eyes. Voice, melting ice cream under the sun of Mariupol. A drop falls onto my shoulder. Lips stealing that drop. Planes do not fly in Mariupol. Birds do not nest. Seagulls spitting on our backs, shoulders, sadness, knees and toes do not land. Dear Mr. Seagull, take me where the sea hits the rocks you call home. Anton. Dear Miss Seagull, I'm almost as light as your scream. And Miss Seagull, who never listens to any of my prayers. Dear Miss Seagull, Our Lady of the Way, bring the salt of the years onto my hair. Dear Mother Seagull, never was it known that anyone who fled to your protection was left unaided. Let me keep all of my memories of this place. My Queen Seagull, you are a refuge for sinners and the health of the sick. Sing to me whatever you sing when you are scared. Good Mother Seagull, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Let this night be silent. That Mrs. Seagull, who never answers to any of my prayers, takes Antonio in her beak to the nest. There he is chirping among the rocks of the Sea of Azov. As I'm trying to keep the lament in my emergency backpack on the pillow filled with the songs of the seagulls when they are afraid, somewhere Putin sleeps in his bed, enveloped in a red rust blanket, even smiles in his dream of a nuclear bomb, in his dream of the cozier blanket made of softer rust, of a muzzled dog that doesn't bite at night, of the morning sounds my memories of Anton are making, fading into Panton, PMS 1803-06, TCX gunmetal. While the walls of my room were shrinking, the ceiling falling, the classroom at school number 4 in Mariupol ceased to exist.
In my carry-on backpack, now I always carry cash on me. I always carry hard copies of my documents on me, snacks, water, matches. I always carry a small box of jewelry inherited from my grandma and a first aid kit. I carry this carry-on backpack on every occasion I leave my apartment. Will I be back home tonight? I don't know. The only thing I know is my mantra: carry on. I have to carry on with the care for myself and others who might have lost their carry-ons, evacuating, fleeing, running away from war, who can't feel anymore that they can carry on. All they can feel is that it has never been so heavy to carry on empty-handed. When I can start from scratch, having had started from scratch for so many times, when I continue living life that is hard to live in its own way, or leaving people behind whom it's hard to leave, yet harder to stay with. When I have hopes and lose them, then have hopes again and lose them again. When I love again, knowing it's not the right person and it's never going to happen, still giving all of me. When I remember that keeping loyal to my own self has never been so crucial and so impossible to stick to. When I forget that being loyal to God has never been so life-saving and self-protective. When I simply fail, when I can't commit, I still forgive myself for being what I am and cherish and promise to become. What's in your name? The subtle touch of wind over my face, the quiet rustling of leaves caressing each other on the swaying boughs of the lindens. The fragrance of its bloom fills the warm night, kindling star after star, which evolve into the constellation I can name after you. And there is so much more to your name and reachable to my sight. And in your name there is summer and hope for love and me. Can you hear me calling? When I was a kid, I remember I tried to picture a little hair brooch my grandma would tell me about. A little hair brooch of hers she had as a kid. She would tell me all about it as the most precious thing she had ever had in her life. A little hair brooch she got from her father as a parting gift when she was 4, when he was leaving them for war to fight for the country he never believed in. A little hair brooch she lost when she was 6, somewhere in the field, while grazing villagers' cows, while chasing one of them, because she lost her of her unwatchful sight, out of her unwatchful sky-blue eyes, conquered by sleep and tiredness, empty stomach, and cold feet. A little hair brooch she spent hours scraping for in light green grass, swallowing the salt of her tears, smearing the drops of the rain over her face. A little hair brooch she lost forever, which meant a father to her, his only gift, her only memory of him. A little hair brooch she would never forget until her last day. Now, when the world discovered the price of human life, the price of peace and security, freedom of speech and freedom of choice, recognition of famines and genocides, importance of mindfulness and calm and prayer, there are still little girls fantasizing about their dads while grazing cows, while swallowing salt of tears because of thirst. There are still little girls picturing their dads who left them for war and never gave them a little hair brooch to pin their hair with, to pin a memory in their heart. Now, when I'm a young adult, I try to remember that nothing changed between the wars.